slash BGH to try to win this matchup for him. Harrison Jones in the opening hand for Fake, but he's thinking about tossing it back, which kind of surprises me here, PVDDR.
Yeah, I mean, as much as it's a good card, this deck has a lot of late game and not that many early plays, so I think you have to toss it back, hoping that you would draw some action. Because, what would happen if he tossed those other two back and his two cards were Sylvanas, the Ancient of Lore? His hand would have a 5, a 6, and a 7 cost minion. So I think it's, as much as you want their Harrison Jones, you cannot afford it. If your hand was already early game cards that you were planning on keeping, then you could also keep the Harrison Jones, because that would guarantee, a reasonable curve. But when you have nothing else, I think you can't go for it. It's too risky.
Right, he's shoving for wild growth as best as he can. That's just the dream opening hand. Innervate's great, but the implications in a control matchup of having extra mana is much more powerful. Oh my goodness, turn 3 Ancient of Lore.
Yeah, we're probably going to see that. Especially since the alternative is just hero power attack, then I would definitely a good use of those innervates.
The good news for Kolento is he can respond to this. The bad news is his opponent's been able to draw into other powerful cards too, like his second Ancient of Lore, and this is kind of what the Druid can capitalize on. And as a ramp Druid, sometimes you can play even a little bit more aggressively because of it.
Yeah, Kolento's going to have to use his coin to get rid of that guy, but that's definitely worth it. And yeah, the issue in this matchup is that, just like that Ancient of Lore, there are a lot of other minions that can only be answered by either Shield Slam or Execute. So, but we've seen Kolento play this matchup before, and he came out ahead, so same thing could definitely happen now.
Alright, well, now we just start becoming... Now it starts becoming a battle of the big minions as it starts to get up a little bit in the mana count. And this is where going first really does pay off in spades. A lot of people, again, always like, oh, I wish I had coins so that way I can put out something a little earlier and I have an extra card. But in these control matchups, it's really coming down to who can put out a bigger threat and your opponent has to always respond. But then one deck that's really great at that is Control Warrior, because they can slide into one removal and still play a reasonable threat. And be able to leverage that. And that's why it's so important sometimes to keep your opponent's armor low, be able to exhaust removal, and try to bait out things so that way you're able to be in a good position for your cards like Scenarios to be the checkmate.
Yeah, definitely. And here we see, he could have Wrath and attacked, and he chose, understandably, chose to draw a card and use his hero power, because he doesn't care about 3 damage to himself nearly as much as he cares about drawing an extra gigantic threat.
Right, Fake, I mean, just starting to pile it in, has to kind of continue to build up a good card count. That's also another really important thing about these control matchups, and why Ancient of Lore just feels like one of the best cards Druid has at his arsenal, because you put out a reasonable threat and you're drawing cards, so that way you can pick the removal optimally.
Yeah, definitely. And though, to be fair, he did use 2 cards to draw 2 cards, 2 innervates, but yeah, the next one is just going to be extra cards.
Yeah, and it was also the scenario where if the opponent didn't have the ability to remove it with, Slam Execute or Shield Block, Coin Shield Slam, he'd be doing 5 damage a turn and really giving himself a big lead. Because whatever smaller minion comes out, whether it was Senjin, Sludge Belcher, the Ancient of Lore would have been able to bully it.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, it's definitely worth it. That was the best possible outcome for Kolento, was that still block Shield Slam, and you're still fine with that. So yeah, a lot of interesting options here. Both players have pretty stacked hands. What do you do here?
Well, as a high priority, generally speaking, I like denying the draw off the Acolytes, so that's most likely going to be attacked. The question becomes, do you want to develop this Ancient of Lore? Do you feel you want to develop something else, whether it's Sylvanas, because Sylvanas comes down second and steals the second body of Karen, or I think Druid Claw is a much weaker play than Sylvanas, so I think just Sylvanas or Ancient of Lore.
I like Sylvanas a little bit more, I think, but this will make your next turn better at the cost of making this turn a little bit worse.
Oh, two Cairns is very difficult to deal with. Druid needs those Keeper of the Groves in order to answer immediately. And it's not
Yeah.
easy to kind of go burn through this board here for the Druid deck.
So there are a lot of, well, there's a way. There are a lot of, 5/5 guys. So Cairn is not that fantastic. It's obviously good. It's very hard to deal with, but, Sylvanas actually outmatches Cairn, for example.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. And Sylvanas' timing is very key. In fact, you talk to players like Tides of Time, and he says Sylvanas is his card that he values the most in control matchups by far.
Yeah, the thing with Sylvanas is that, there are a lot of games in which you feel like you're winning by a lot, and your opponent plays Sylvanas, and you're like, oh, I guess that's how I could lose. It's just a very annoying card to play against.
All right. Oh, by the way, Fake does have combo, so you just want to keep in mind, do I ever have the ability to kill my opponent? Still kind of a ways away off, but just kind of keep that in the back pocket here for Fake. Which is cool, because, a lot of Ram Druids also cut the combo because they felt like it wasn't doing too much. He's not trying to be aggressive, and you trying to have to load up on more threats. But I feel like including one copy of the combo keeps your opponent honest, so that way, if they ever they overextend a little bit too much with their health, you can always just end the game as well.
Yeah, and sometimes, if people have been removing, then you also catch people off guard with your ramp deck. Because if you play against Kolento's Druid, everyone is always keeping their Laptop in mind. And against this deck, people can't. Because if they just play too conservatively, you're going to start dropping big minions. And they're going to win the board. You're not going to need the combo. So having the combo gives you a different kill condition. Gives you a different way to win the game. Which, in Kolento's deck, is just more of the same way to win the game, basically.
All right, well, Kolento's going to load up the board, play a lot of his smaller minions. Something I can definitely get behind and try to see if he can rack up his armor.
Yeah. So here, does he probably prefers to attack with the axe rather than executing? But he could suicide his Cairn and then kill the Sylvanas, since he played a lot of small minions for you to kill. So the worst case scenario would be just stealing a 4/5. So this is not to just to go for the face.
By the way, Kolento does have Alex Straza as well, and that's 14 damage sitting right there. So there's a lot of ways for him to kind of assess the situation, maybe turn aggressive, who knows. And at the moment, we see 21 damage from combo, so Fake's a little bit off lethal. So both players in the next turn will be slightly off of what they want to be to potentially end the game.
Yeah. But I feel like there has to be an attack from Fake here, like to a minion. I don't think he can just attack face and hope to kill his opponent with the combo in the next turn. But he could do that. It's not really that dangerous because he can't play Alexstrasza and something else in the same turn, so he is sure he's not gonna die here. So he could just attack face and play a Scenarios, for example. That would be a pretty powerful turn. Within a Nation of War. So Fake with a lot of good options here. I think none of his options are actually bad.
Yeah, the problem with the problem with Scenarios though, and something and attacking the face is that you allow your opponent to draw a lot of cards and gain
he gains a lot of armor. That's the issue, but you can't really prevent that. I don't think, which is why I think he should probably not attack face here.
Yeah.
Just don't try to win with the combo. Just try to win with the many very powerful minions you have in your hand, as opposed to hoping that the combo gets there, because you don't need it to. You can even use it for removal next turn.
All right, so Kolento's going to gain a lot of armor this turn, and has flexibility with how he uses his legendaries here. Still kind of mindful of Sylvanas in the back of his mind, though.
Yeah, for sure. He does have his own Sylvanas, but That's pretty dangerous to play when your opponent steals it.
Yeah, generally as a rule of thumb, the second Sylvanas is superior to the first because of Death Rattle, not to mention that you can play the second Sylvanas and potentially steal the first Sylvanas if you have a way to remove it. So there's advantage there, but the board is so convoluted to the point where you don't have anything guaranteed, and you might have a really poor trade if Sylvanas ends up going for like a switcheroo here, using
Yeah.
Sylvanas.
And Kolento's seen that his opponent has 8 cards in hand, and he can't be feeling very good about it. So I imagine he feels like he has to do something. Otherwise, his opponent is going to play a gigantic minion every turn for the rest of the game.
Ah, that was probably one of the worst targets possible available to Kolento, and it seems like he's going to go for an execute on the scenario, so that way he can kind of have a really strong ability to wipe the board. And it hits the Bane body, which is the best target. And Fake does have BGH.
Okay, so sorry. Oh, my stream I think I lagged there a bit. It just moved to this game. Moved to this particular turn. And, oh, where did the board go?
It disappeared. Ragnaros made it go poof. He turned up the heat, and Bane couldn't handle it, so he got out of the kitchen. And now Fake can respond immediately with a 7-drop and a BGH. And I feel like that's probably his best course of action. I mean, the Ragnaros is the highest priority, but you still want to evaluate the situation. Think about how much removal has he spent. He did use a Shield Slam. He used an Execute. Does he have anything more? Is playing Ancient of War, is there a better play than this? But I think it's by far his best course of action.
Yeah, it has to be that. It's just so perfect, 7 and 3, and not that this matters much, but you can't possibly get better.
Ooh.
Okay, so Kolento can get rid of the 5/10, but yeah, he does have Sylvanas to get rid of the next 5/10, so that could potentially be pretty good for Kolento.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the possibilities you can synergize with Sylvanas and Shield Slamming it. But, of course, Sylvanas and Shield Slam are like 2 removals, like we say all the time. So, unless it's one of your ways to effectively steal the biggest and strongest minion in your opponent's deck, you often want to separate them unless you feel like a situation's good enough otherwise. Meanwhile, Kolento is still sitting on a board where he can kind of use these Armor Smiths to gain a lot of health and Shield Slam to remove it. And even play, a Sylvanas or Unstable Ghoul.
He could attack the Big Game Hunter as to make, Sylvanas unkillable by hero power.
I have no time for games.
But
Yeah, but now the swipe does become the ability to kill it. But then I guess you use up a lot of your opponent's mana, and that paves the way for Naxxramas. Ah, he has Keeper of the Growth. That's another way you can kind of deal with it if you want to play minions. But I think Keeper of the Growth is best served elsewhere. I think,
well, you can't play Ancient of War here because it's going to get attacked by Sylvanas and get stolen.
right. I think this turn you kind of spend some removal of some kind. Whether you use Keeper of the Grove to try and address the Sylvanas, or maybe even kill off the... You can actually wipe the board here.
Yeah, you could just kill Sylvanas, like with swipe and hero power, and then kill the ones. I think that's the best play because it doesn't add much to his board, but it sets up for a very good turn next turn.
For the wilds.
Well, that's going to be subjective based off what Warrior does, because Warrior looks like will be dropping the Naxxramas, barring any kind of other magnificent draw off the top of Kolento's deck. Meanwhile, Fake still has some of the best cards here waiting. He's got Combo, he's got Ancient of War and Druid of the Claw, but he has to have a way to contest it.
Ooh, that card's huge.
Walker.
He could combo and kill the Naxxramas.
Yeah, are you afraid of Black Knight?
I think you probably should be. I mean, Kolento doesn't run it, but I think most lists would run it. So he has had a chance to play Black Knight many turns already, and he hasn't played it. So that one card he has in hand is not a Black Knight. That unstable goal. But yeah, I don't think I would play around Black Knight now, but it's possible that just comboing to kill the Naxxramas is better regardless of Black Knight. I don't think so. If you want to stream Black Knight, you should probably just play the Sunwalker.
Okay, well, implies with the Wild Growth that he will play Sunwalker. It's one of the best
Yeah.
ways to answer a big giant minion like this because the Divine Shield does so much work.
Yeah. No, it's gonna make that minion, a 4/13 now, effectively.
All right, well, what does Kolento pick up here? Needs something to deal with this Sunwalker, or else she's gonna get a lot of value. Slam is one of the key cards.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
the perfect card. It gets rid of Divine Shield and draws you a Ledge Belcher.
Not bad at all. He's at 33 health, and Shield Block can be used a little bit more liberally, but I think you still want to keep in mind the possibility that your opponent plays combo, so get some good... don't miss the opportunity cost of losing the armor up for 2 versus cycling through.
Yeah, unless you absolutely need to draw something, turning your Shield Block into gaining 3 life, effectively, 3 armor. Because you'd rather just hero power, I think.
All right, Fake picks up his second Keeper of the Grove, so that gives him the ability to answer this Sludge Belcher. In the back of your mind, you did see something like Ysera, though, and that's... I think you need to keep this Keeper of the Grove and preserve it as long as you can, because you know your opponent runs Ysera. That's the only way you can deal with it, unless you can either kill him, or you want to use Force of Nature / whatever's on the board to remove, and that's not even a guarantee. So... I feel like that's just going to be there as much as you might want to deal with
Yeah, I mean, if he uses the combo here, he could clear the board. But that does span his entire turn.
Alright, well, it looks like he's going to go for it. Something I can definitely get behind, and he even keeps the Keeper of the Grove at full health here.
Yeah, this is the good thing about this ramp deck, that you can use the combo and know that you're still able to win the game, even though your opponent's a very high life total.
Uh-oh. Was there a slight misplay of some kind? Usually when players are doing that, they're kind of like thinking over, what did I do wrong, perhaps?
I don't know, maybe he's just sad for having to use the combo.
Maybe he felt like he shouldn't have attacked with his head. I don't know. Yeah, maybe he just said that. You didn't want to use those cards. By the way, Kolento gets 2 cards that are probably pretty useless, and now is passed and given initiative back over to Fake. And that's got to make you a little hesitant, but at the same time, slightly happy that it looks like Warrior kind of hit dead-end draws here.
Yeah, and what could those draws be? Kolento has 5 mana. Didn't play anything. So he's got to be thinking, this is probably an execute. So he saves that Ancient of War.
Well, now that you don't have combo, it's not like Cat Form is going to be putting on an insane amount of pressure to end the game with, using a combo to combo your opponent into lethal range. But at the same time, you're protected and you kind of reduce your ability to get... If Black Knight was going to come out, it would be coming out on this engine anyways.
Yeah, and he's got to be thinking about Brawl, too. Kolento doesn't have it, we know that, but he doesn't. And so probably doesn't want to play his Vast Minions anymore. So I imagine if Kolento just passes next turn, for example, he would just not commit anything else to the board. He would just attack and pass.
He needs a big minion here. Alright. Lothab is bigger than what he had. Not like Ysera, but, Kolento's also used some of his biggest minions already, too. Ragnaros and Naxxramas come to mind. 2 of the biggest legendaries that he has at his disposal.
Yeah, he still has Gromosh and Ysera left. I think those are, his best options. He's used Cairn, too.
Well, with Harrison Jones and Ancient of Lore, and even the Keeper of the Grove to silence a minion that can be problematic, whether it's, you know, your Sarah / whatever big minion that he hasn't been able to kill off yet. I think Fake's in a pretty good position here to start taking advantage of this game.
Yeah, definitely. Well, there's Zombie Chow again making an appearance.
Zombie Chow. That old little rascal thinking he's relevant in a control matchup.
Yeah, so things looking pretty good for Fake here. You know, but again, he's got to be terrified of Kolento's 3 cards, which have been in his hand for 2 turns now. You know, probably not thinking unstable goal, because the first thing, you know, most people would just have played an unstable goal out there, you know, because it's a minion, you can. It makes sense not to, because it's just going to get attacked. But when you think, what can my opponent be holding? You're not going to be thinking a minion that he could have played but didn't. You know, you're going to be thinking, oh, it's cards like Brawl, it's cards like Execute.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly got to be Brawl. We're this late into the game. It's been lasting around 20 minutes or so.
Yeah,
and
but
Fake is
Taskmaster also.
Yeah, meticulously calculating. Well, do I want to play a lot of minions on the board, or am I going to trade in and try to be a little bit more defensive? And he is. He's going to play around... Oh, no, I'm just kidding. I thought he was going to use something like Healer Grove here.
Attack!
Uprooted! Oh my goodness.
Okay, that does make it better against Black Knight.
Guess so.
So he is at 11, which is kind of a dangerous life double. You know, Cruel Taskmaster plus Gramash could kill him if only Kolento, you know, gets rid of that taunt guy. And he still doesn't have lethal on the next turn.
What now?
Yeah, Kolento can still turn this around. He's got Death Spite, like you mentioned. And it's not easy for this Druid to heal up. Healing Touch has been cycled out a while ago for this Druid deck. For,
and he's been
Druids.
through both his Ancient of Lords already, you know, when he played very early and better. Not so early, but, you know, he doesn't have any anymore.
Oh, but then Harrison Jones becomes an important disarming tool to remove the proc of the Death Spite prematurely, so you can't get the value off of being able to, oh man, in fact, he can go for double value off the Harrison Jones.
Yeah, and that's gonna, you know, clear the board on Kolento's side, because the Death Spite is gonna trigger, then Bull is gonna trigger when he attacks it with the 2/4, so...
That belongs in a museum.
That Death Spite belongs in a museum, and now the board's clear, and all of a sudden, there's just very little ways for Kolento to win from this spot, considering that there's still a Taunter, and he doesn't have even a way to activate his Grommash, and his opponent's sitting at a tantalizing health just above the range for Grommash to finish.
Yeah, at this point, you know, he's just pretty hopeless. Yeah, again, he's probably trying to see, you know, what happens when he top decks Brawl, which is probably the only card he cares about at this point. And besides that, he can just go ahead and play the Harvest Golem, it's not going to make a difference.
Yeah, it's at least it gives you a 2/1 minion as well in case anything goes wrong. Oh, and Kolento gets Grommash. I mean, he only had 6 cards left or so, but I mean, this is kind of what he was setting up for, and that's why he played Grommash, by the way, so that way he can actually potentially end the game next turn. But now Fake, it doesn't matter, he's top decking Harvest Golem in the late stages of the game. You're kind of usually sad if you're the control player, you're getting their smaller minions this late, but Warrior is also running out of win conditions. You're just worried about Ysera as the final card, and you even have a way to answer it at the moment.
Yeah, and so if that Harrison Jones hadn't come out, Kolento would have won this turn.
Feel nature's wrath.
That's right. If it came out earlier on the Fiery War Axe or something.
Yeah, it's probably pretty disappointing for Kolento.
Okay, Fake has to also be careful. He's close to fatigue. I don't think it'll come down to the point where he'll get fatigued out of the game, because I believe the last threat remaining in Kolento's deck is, in fact, the Ysera. And he's got a few other small things like another
Zombie
weapon,
Chow.
perhaps. Yeah, Zombie Chow and another weapon. But don't underestimate the power of something like Ysera Awakens to potentially swing the state of the board. And Zombie Chow will keep Warrior alive a little bit longer. And it is a Ysera, so what card Kolento draws could be the one impacting the rest of this game. But no, it's a Laughing Sister. That's one of the worst cards you could possibly get.
Yeah, at least, it's probably going to suicide a lot of things into that. He could ignore it and just silence it, but that's pretty dangerous if Kolento did draw the thing that deals 5 damage for everything. So
Right.
I imagine he's probably just going to... But killing it also makes the board super dangerous because then you could die to fatigue.
That's true. Do you run out of damage yourself?
I think you just have to kill it, though. No, it's going to leave you with 2 minions in play if you use Wrath and... But then you can't cast Ledge Basher that same turn. So perhaps his plan is just ignoring it.
Okay, well, he's also just saying if you have Brawl, well, good luck and God bless. Hopefully it doesn't land on the wrong side of the coin. But
Yeah.
Kolento, we know he doesn't have Brawl.
Yeah, even if he plays the board sweeper now, he would be at 2 life, and your opponent would get 3 minions. So he would be able to attack one, and, maybe just die to the other 2, even if he armors up.
That Sludge Belcher is so huge too because this allows him from being able to pick up the trades and play defensively. Kolento's going to concede, and the control war goes to the Ramp Druid, and Fake ties it up and sends Kolento to the last game and potentially being able to sneak a win in his first opening series of this tournament.
Yeah. Is that Colento's first loss in the first day? If that